Welcome to the Oklahoman's video studio. I'm Dave Morris. Our weekly look at politics, both nationally and locally, here in Oklahoma and Washington, D.C. Joining us via Skype is Chris Castile. Chris, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Dave. How are you?
Doing well. It is exit interview day for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Over my left shoulder, Steven Adams is talking to the media, and you know how Steven Adams looks. Look at that shot right there, Chris. You may not be able to see it, but it's hilarious.
I'd love to be watching. I'm sure most people would rather be watching that than me right now, Dave.
You posted some new information out of Washington, D.C. Former U.S. Senator Tom Coburn endorsed Jaren Jackson. We're talking about the U.S. House seat against incumbent Representative Markwayne Mullin. But then Senator Jim Inhofe has responded with an endorsement of Mullin's reelection bill. What can you tell us, sir?
Well, it was a very odd day, a very odd morning as far as those things go. And I think, you and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago about the tension in the delegation about certain things, votes. And I think we're starting to kind of see that bust open a little bit. This morning, Tom Coburn, who left the Senate in early 2015, took the unusual step of endorsing the challenger to an incumbent in a primary race, a Republican primary race. Coburn's a Republican, obviously from eastern Oklahoma, and Markwayne Mullin holds the seat that Coburn once held in the House. He's held it for the last 4 years, and he has a tough. Mullin has a tough challenge this time from a West Point grad, combat veteran, Army veteran, Jaren Jackson, and Coburn endorsed Jaren Jackson today, particularly citing Markwayne Mullin's wavering on his term limit pledge. And Markwayne said in 2012, I'm going to do 3 terms, that's it, then I'm out of there. Well, he filed for his 3rd term in April and issued a kind of vague statement about whether that was going to be the last time he filed or not. Coburn kind of started this whole term limit thing in the congressional delegation back in the mid-90s. First guy to do it, he held to it, and he's super offended by the idea of somebody making a term limit pledge and not upholding it. So he endorsed Mullin's opponent mainly because of that wavering that Mullin's doing about honoring his term limit pledge. And Senator Jim Inhofe, this afternoon came back and said, "Hey, I'm going to endorse Mullin in this race. He's a man of integrity and character." And so you have the 2 guys who used to serve together in the U.S. Senate, 2 very influential, politicians in Oklahoma split over this Mullin race.
In fact, those 2 will square off. We're talking Jaren Jackson, Markwayne Mullin, square off in the June 28th Republican primary for the 2nd District. Chris, over the next 27 days, what can we expect?
Well, Mullin is already up on TV. Mullin, I was looking at the TV station ad buys.
Which you tweeted about. In fact,
show that picture.
Yeah, if not coincidentally, in the background is some Mullin plumbing van.
Yeah, that was a good plug for
Good product placement right there.
Yeah. No, I think Mullin is going to be seriously challenged in this race because of the term limit thing. Now, he tried to blame, I did a story on this a few weeks ago around the filing period, because it was one of the worst kept secrets in Washington that Markwayne Mullin was kind of wavering on his pledge, that he might waver on his pledge, that he might not, limit himself to 3 terms. And I thought about asking him before, just, hey, what are you going to do? But I waited, to around the time of filing. Him and Jim Bridenstine, and the congressman in Tulsa made the exact same pledge. Is this the last time you're going to file for Congress? Because it should be, based on their pledges. This should be the last time they're going to file. It's just a chance for them to restate the pledge that they made in 2012. So there's like 3 ways you can answer that question. Yes, no, maybe. Bridenstine answered it with an emphatic yes. This is a 3rd and final time I'm filing for this. Mullin says, I haven't changed, my opinion hasn't changed about this. I haven't changed my mind about this. However,
yeah, he kind of cashes his bets there with a however, comma. We're going to continue to seek the Lord's guidance, I believe is what he said.
That's what he said, that he and his wife essentially would pray about it. Well, I would have thought that that guidance that he was going to seek had already been given in 2012, and that was the pledge he made. So I I took it as a maybe, as I think most people would take it when you say however. And anyway, so and his I would say this about Mullin as well. His chief of staff, Carl Algren, is a long-time political consultant. In fact, I think he had a political consulting company. I think they represented Mullin in the 2012 race. So why do I bring that up? Because Carl Algren would know how to answer that question. You know, he would deliberate on that, and he would know how people would interpret it. So when you put out a statement that says, however, then Carl Algren knows that pretty much everybody in the political world is going to take that as a maybe. And in my opinion, I don't know this for sure. They wanted to gauge reaction to that. That if indeed Mark Wayne's, wavering on this pledge, thinking about maybe I'm going to run, another time after this, they want to know how people would respond to it. And that would have been a good way. Well, now they know. I think it's been really hard on him out on the campaign trail. And I think I'm not sure he's going to get beat. He's got a lot of money. He's already running a lot of ads. And he's well known, we all know, because of that plumbing company that's all over eastern Oklahoma. So he has the edge there. But the Coburn endorsement will make a difference, and we'll see if the Inhofe endorsement counters it.
One last point on this, sir. Jaron Jackson, as you mentioned, is a combat veteran. What else do we know about him?
All right, not much. That this is his first time to run for office. I mean, he's obviously a super sharp guy. I've read some of his issue papers, and I don't know how well known he's from Claremore. He's from a part of the district, the northern part of that district, and it goes way down south. And I'm sure that it's been hard for him just to get name ID in that district. Probably he's benefiting more from the negative reaction to Mullin than any kind of positive reaction to himself, because that's a huge district. Takes out almost all of eastern Oklahoma. It'd be hard to get around in that district. So, in a very short time. So, I mean, I think he actually did start campaigning really early this year, maybe even announced late last year. I can't remember the whole timetable, but it's a challenge to take on somebody like Mullin, who has a lot of money and is well known.
Again, that Republican primary, June 28th. Plenty of coverage from our man Chris Castile in the Oklahoman and on newsok.com leading up to that and beyond as we head towards the general election in November. Stephen Adams and I continue here from the Oklahoman's video desk. And Chris, walking into the front doors of the Oklahoman at this point, and perhaps a fantastic segue, was U.S. Representative Steve Russell about 2 minutes ago, headed upstairs to talk with our guy, Owen Canfield, upstairs. You had another story about Steve Russell here recently and the defense bill amendment that has, frankly, sparked quite a bit of debate. I'll throw that to you at this point.
Yeah, an amazing amount of debate, really. I mean, it's kind of become this flashpoint, in these cultural wars up here that we're having over, LGBT issues, transgender bathroom issues, and Russell's amendment seemed to be pretty simple amendment, but it's not. It has really sparked a lot of controversy. It could basically shut down the appropriations process in the House, or at least really limit the amount of debate that you can have on spending bills. It kind of remains to be seen how Republicans want to go on this. But what's happened, and what Russell said he was trying to do was to protect religious organizations who have kind of legal protection to hire people that believe the way they do, their faith. Catholics can hire Catholics at their charities. And what Russell wants to do is protect that of any religious organization that gets a federal contract of any kind. And this goes back to a 2014 executive order that President Obama issued that basically tried to end discrimination against LGBT people in federal contracting. So Democrats have taken this effort by Russell to be kind of an effort to allow employers to discriminate against LGBT workers. But it is reality that the Supreme Court, I mean, there is case law there have been decisions that do protect religious organizations that want to hire people based on their faith. So that is what this is about. And it's, is it religious liberty or is it discrimination? I mean, that's the kind of the simplistic fight that it's come down to. And the Democrats were not able to, they actually were not given an opportunity to try to strip this amendment from the annual defense bill. So what they've tried to do is neutralize it in some of these spending bills. And there's just been chaos on the floor, these fights between Republicans and Democrats over this. I mean, without getting, too deep in the weeds about us, it's been really, really remarkable.
And stepping back, the bigger picture here, that defense bill, that's one of the most important of the year, right?
Every year, the defense bill is really, really important. The people who write it are experts on defense policy. Steve Russell and Jim Bridenstine, both veterans, military veterans, are on the committee, Armed Services Committee, that writes it. Jim Inhofe on the Senate side is a senior member of the Armed Services Committee. John McCain and it sets defense policy on a whole range of things. And in the Senate, we're likely to have, they are going to start the debate probably next week. And we might have the debate, you and I talked about this, I think, over women registering for the draft. So that debate on the Senate bill may occur next week. And ultimately what happens, Dave, is you get a House bill, you get a Senate bill, they get behind closed doors and have to write a final version that reconciles the two. And they're going to leave some stuff out just to try to get the bill through, because President Obama has already threatened to veto over this Russell provision. Not just that, there's like a laundry list of provisions that the White House doesn't like about the defense bill. But this is an important bill. They want it to be signed. And so they're going to not fight fights that they think are unnecessary on this bill. If it's something like Guantanamo, prisoners at Guantanamo, Republicans will fight that fight every year. I don't think they're going to fight over, Russell's amendment, maybe even the women in, registering for the draft, since there is no draft the registration or importance of the registration, is fairly debatable. But to answer your question, it's a very important bill, and they're probably not going to let it go down over these kinds of provisions.
It's the type of coverage our Chris Castile provides, and you can find archive coverage and ongoing coverage from Chris online at newsok.com/more/Chris Castile. His latest update on that story, Sunday, May 29th, but also previous coverage from last week. That defense bill includes major reforms for military organization, weapons purchasing, military justice, and Defense Department health care. Chris, another headline that you have been on top of and we've been following: Oklahoma joining 10 other states in transgender bathroom lawsuit. Where's this headed?
Excuse me, Dave. Ultimately, the Supreme Court. I don't know. That's kind of been the pattern with these cases. But that this was a step that was definitely coming. This has to do with the basically the policy directive that came out of the White House a few weeks ago about how public schools should treat transgender, restroom situations and locker room situations. And, because of the reaction that you've had over healthcare and environmental things from Republican AGs, a lawsuit from these states was likely coming. So that's where it is. It's in federal court, pretty close to you. It's in Wichita Falls. And that is the first step. Oklahoma is one of 10 states. Texas is the leading state that filed this suit over the transgender bathroom issue, basically saying that the administration's overstepping its bounds and actually violating the Constitution and telling schools how to treat this situation. So it'll start with a federal judge, probably move up to a federal appeals court, and maybe a 9-member Supreme Court by then. We'll just have to see.
One last question, I'll get you out of here on this, Chris. Still seeing some national reports where Oklahoma Governor Mary Fallin is among those as a potential Republican vice presidential candidate. Are you hearing anything from up there? Any legitimacy to
No,
that buzz?
I'm not hearing anything else up here. I think every publication has to do its list, because that's just what they do. There's because these races are pretty much decided, then you've got a lot of political reporters kind of, searching around for something to write about. And this is a natural topic. It's on everybody's mind. It's a big deal who they pick as a running mate. But I think the one that I saw recently, and I think maybe the one you're referring to, was the Washington Post one that had her as number two and said that she was really popular in Oklahoma and really popular among conservatives around the country. And I don't know what their sourcing is for either of those things. They didn't cite a single poll or a single source. They just said that. And I don't know. I haven't seen a poll that shows Mary Fallon is really popular in Oklahoma, much less around the whole country. So we'll see. Yeah, I've rambled on about the Mary Fallon thing. I don't think it's going to be her, but who knows?
Good stuff as always. Chris Castillo joins us every Wednesday afternoon. We're here in the Oklahoman's video studio. He's with our sister newspaper in Washington, D.C. at the Washington Examiner. I believe, Chris, next week, Owen Camfield will be talking with you.
Oh, great. Great. I'll look forward to that.
Well, me too, because you guys are always great together having a good conversation. Good analysis today. Thanks for the clarification on various things and staying on top of the stuff with Markwayne Mullin's upcoming race. Chris, as always, we enjoy it.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it.
More coverage can be found online at newsok.com and, of course, in the Oklahoman.